Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. Today, we are going to be talking about Hawkeye. Okay. Yep, we're going to talk about the fourth episode of the series. We're going to go down a checklist about my speculations that I did earlier this week to see just how well it went, and talk about what might happen in the last two episodes, because it's getting pretty damn interesting. But before we do that, it's the holiday season, and I know everybody's giving gifts and getting gifts and buying things, and it's been a rough year for a lot of people. The economy, with inflation and everything else, things are really tight. But I want to remind you guys about a group called the Hero Initiative. Now, the Hero Initiative is a charitable organization that helps comic creators in need. Now, we look at, all the stuff I cover on here, the majority of it comes from comic books. And that means it comes from the minds of writers and artists who have been working for years and years, mostly for these big companies. And at a time when health insurance and benefits and stuff like that just didn't happen. Everybody was a freelancer. So you have a lot of these amazingly talented people who are now later in life and are struggling. They're having a hard time paying their bills, or paying their health coverage, paying the electrical bill, or just getting food on the table. And, the Hero Initiative helps those people out. They give them, money to help with those when the shortcomings happen. Now, I've been a big proponent of the Hero Initiative for years. Many years ago, I did a book called The Unusual Suspects, which I got a bunch of great artists to donate their time. And it was Ben Temple-Smith and Marat Michaels, Dietrich Smith, Bobby Breed. Just a huge group of people jumped in. We had a Mike Mayhew cover, and Top Cow published it for us, and all of the proceeds went to the Hero Initiative. And I've done things at conventions as well, where I'll do a how to write comics panel, and again, I charge like $20 a person, but all the money goes to the Hero Initiative. And the reason I do that is because this industry is built on these people's backs, on their work, on their creativity. And this helps give back to those people. So if you're enjoying Hawkeye, or you're, looking forward to Spider-Man No Way Home, or any of these other properties that are now insanely popular, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the money's going to trickle down to the creators who did work for hire at the time. Well, some of those people need help. So when you're thinking about your charity donations this year, and we usually think about that during the holidays, keep the Hero Initiative in mind, please. It's a great organization. It does a lot of good for the people that have given us so much entertainment and joy. So just like I said, keep that in mind. Also, if you purchase things on Amazon, if you go through Amazon Smiles, they give a percentage of the proceeds of their sales to charity, and you can choose the charity. I personally choose the Hero Initiative. So when I make an Amazon purchase, and I make a lot of Amazon purchases, a part of what I do, I buy, goes to the Hero Initiative. So please keep that in mind, and thank you. All right. And JD has put the direct link in there. So please, like I said, keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and talk about Hawkeye. And let's go down the checklist first from, let's roll the spoiler thing. That's always a good thing to do while I drink tea. All right, so let's look at the list of things I gave you on Tuesday that I thought were going to happen. Now, the first one was talking about the uncle character being Wilson Fisk to Vincent D'Onofrio. We didn't really get anything to disprove that. If anything, we got a little bit more of a hint when Hawkeye is talking to Kazi, and he says, the boss doesn't want attention. So, again, male gender or pronouns and stuff. So a lot of people think Eleanor may be the big boss, but I don't see it. And also, a lot of people are speculating that Eleanor works for Kingpin, which is fine. You can believe that. But my thought is that it would make more sense that I don't know if that's the case. I mean, because the Bishop works with the guy Sloan. Sloan is the Tracksuit Mafia front company. So and Kingpin was thing. But if it was a direct line like that, why would Kingpin need to steal the watch? Use the Tracksuit Mafia to steal the watch when he could have just bid on it and won, or not put it in the auction if he was running the auction. Just seems kind of a questionable thing here. Why did the Tracksuit Mafia need to steal the watch? So, something to think about. All right, let's move on. The second thing was Jack Duquesne is a SHIELD agent and knows Clint. William Holland says, I loved the calm before the storm of this week's episode. Absolutely. Yeah. And the storm came right at the end. The storm started coming at the end when you got that four-way fight, but we'll get into that. Whether Jack Duquesne is an ex-SHIELD agent or not, I think it's still a possibility because they wouldn't want to blow each other's cover with people around. But I'm not betting on this one anymore. Jack Duquesne killed Maya's father. Still think that's a good possibility because I don't see Clint I can't see Clint killing William as the impetus. I mean, at some point Maya has to make that turn, and I think that still needs to be that Kingpin is behind William's death. Bullseye is in Ronin costumes, always another possibility. Eleanor Bishop is evil. Absolutely. That's still high on the list. Whether she's Madame Mask or not, I don't know. But she does make a call during the episode, and it does feel like maybe the person she called is Valerie, or Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And that's who calls in the Black Widow. So something to think about there. Yelena will reveal that Clint was Ronin and cause a rift between he and Kate. Nope, that didn't happen. Yelena shows up, but Kate figures it out herself. Clint admits to it. And this was kind of the fascinating thing here, is if you've noticed through this entire series, Clint doesn't lie. He will not answer or change the subject, but he has not come out and outright lied. You know, even the gray area of him saying that Natasha killed Ronan, you can kind of see where that's the truth, that Ronan or Natasha coming to Clint and telling her that there was a way to get the family back is what ended the Ronan's career. So that is a Ben Kenobi style lie that, you know, has elements of the truth to it. But he could have said no, or he could have just came out and told her that he wasn't Ronan, but he leaned into it. He was very honest with her. So interesting. William says, sometimes the way things appear one way but end up being another. Kingpin may have sent the mafia to make it look like a burglary to out the cover of the wearer of the watch. Possible. You know, I have a hard time with the idea if Kingpin is the head of the Tracksuit Mafia, then he isn't the one who was putting the auction together, because it just doesn't make sense. Now, maybe it was Maya who wanted the watch because she had heard that it ties the Ronin identity. But you'd think she would already know that by now. But yeah, that said, there's been a lot of writing gaffes in this series, things that are just convenient to make things happen, that, we just move the story along out of convenience. So maybe that's just, they're never going to answer that question, who was hosting the auction and all that. But I'm hoping they do. And like I said, it doesn't make sense that the person who wanted the watch would be running the auction. Yeah, you'd think she'd want the costume and the sword and set. True. But yeah, they didn't care about that. They were there for one thing and one thing only, the watch. JD says, what I got was Maya set up the robbery to get the watch to do just what happened, lure Ronin so she could kill him. Williams says, it may be answered in the Echo series too. True. But I think whoever wanted the watch, like I said, whoever wanted the watch, well, and we don't know what the watch pertains to, because you can assume that the watch outs Ronin, but it could also be it outs somebody else. One of the theories that popped in my head immediately because in the episode, we find out that the watch still exists, and even Clint finds out that it's an issue because of Laura, his wife, mentions the watch. So the watch is something that both Clint and Laura know about. And we see Laura has a lot more agency here. She can do a lot more. When he asks her to look up Sloan, she comes back with the information. And it doesn't take her long to do that. So I'm starting to think that maybe they met at work. Maybe Laura is an ex-agent. Maybe it's an agent who also made enemies. And what if Laura was Mockingbird? Hawkeye and Mockingbird end up married in the comics. It would make a lot of sense. There's when we first meet her in Avengers Age of Ultron, Tony Stark actually says that she's an agent. Now, he's joking because he doesn't know this. How is it Hawkeye has a wife and kids? But it could be possible that she was an agent in the field with Hawkeye. They're close to the same age. She's a little younger. So maybe she retired. Maybe they met while working together, fell in love, and, he stayed on as Hawkeye while she retired, or it's something like that. But it would be an interesting way to bring in the Mockingbird character. I know that fans want to see all the characters get their spotlight, but we're talking about a company that has hundreds upon hundreds of characters. So giving every one of them their spotlight is kind of tough. So maybe you take a character like Mockingbird and, just say, oh, this is Mockingbird, and she was active before, she's retired now. And then you get that Mockingbird and Clint marriage, stuff like that. But, I hear a lot of people going, well, maybe she passes the mantle down. It's like, well, maybe not. Do we need Mockingbird in the MCU? I mean, if we just get it, okay, she's retired, do we need to continue with Mockingbird? I mean, this isn't like Marvel Comics where they put out, 40 books a month. They put out one movie every 3 months. They put a TV series out a couple times a year. I mean, there's just so many characters that can actually get into the content, that taking a character like Mockingbird and saying, oh, okay, this is Clint's wife. She used to be Mockingbird. That would be kind of fun. And we get a flashback of the two of them working together. And that pretty much takes care of it, in my opinion. But William says, but Roden hadn't been around for 5 years. How would she know that would lure out Ronan? Just a question. If she breaks out and starts whooping fool. Yeah, I'd be down for that. Yeah, it would be cool. Oh, that would be neat because Maya had. Oh, wow. Oh, see now, William, you got me thinking. What if the ending takes place at the farm? What if Maya and the tracksuit head out there, and Clint and Kate get there, but we see Mockingbird in action? I think that would be interesting too to see her with her staffs and stuff. That would be, yeah. I like that idea. I don't think they're going to go there because I think the ending's just. I think the whole idea is to keep everything in New York. But yeah, that would be an interesting ending to see, or her showing up in New York as backup. That would also be interesting. But all right, so we were going through. So basically, the Hawkeye, the Clint and Jack knowing each other. It's not dead, but it's very unlikely now because, I mean, I don't know if they would have said anything recognition, but the fact that he calls him Archer instead of Hawkeye almost seems like a dig, Mockingbird versus Maya, it would be a great scene. And I think it would be a really nice way to use that character who has been kind of in the background the whole time. But the other thing that I think we can put an end to is the watch being Stark Tech or something. I think in this case, the watch is just a watch. And part of the problem is you get caught up in these things and keeping in mind that this is the bigger MCU. But other than Loki series, these series have all been very self-contained, they didn't bring in all these earth-shattering changes and stuff. So I could see them keeping it, the power broker turned out to be Sharon Carter, where a lot of people were thinking it's Arnim Zola, it's, all these other people. Keeping them somewhat self-contained makes a lot of sense. So where originally I thought maybe the watch would end up being the MacGuffin that carries over into Armor Wars, I still think there's a chance of that, but it's looking more to me like this is just going to be a watch that, like I said, may tie to his wife. Because why would she have? I mean, it's a watch with a tracking beacon on it. I could see, and it looks like a man's watch. It looks like a man's Rolex. I don't know if a lot of women wear that large of a Rolex. And then it's got a tracking beacon on it that Laura can access too. So there's a lot going on in this thing about Laura that we know nothing about. So I think that's going to be one of the big payoffs. Kyle, hey, I'm just here to say that the last 5 minutes of episode is the only reason I'm watching episode 5. Okay. All right. Fair enough. That was a really good fight scene. I liked the fact that there was still the humor in it, but when it became time to get serious, they got serious. Okay, JD, Kyle never appreciates the heartwarming Christmas time. He just got a Grinch tattoo on his arm. Okay, literally, the Grinch. That was his option when it came to a Christmas tattoo, the Grinch. Yeah. Maybe it's Fury's watch since he is supposed to be dead. That's a viable possibility. Maybe it has Fury's real name on it. Because who names their kid Nicholas J. Fury? Don't they deal with that in don't they mention that in Captain Marvel? Fury is kind of a on the nose last name, isn't it? I realize that that's a Stan Lee name, but in reality, that has a hard time. Yeah, JD.
I believe that the name of the original comic where he appeared, they invented it because they were trying to come up with the most ridiculous comic book name ever. And Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos is what won.
Oh, I love that. I like to know if that's a true story, because if it is, that is awesome. Um, all right, so let's get into the actual details of the episode, because a lot of interesting things happened here, and it was kind of all over the place. It went from awkwardly funny to um, kind of heart wrenching to the big action scenes, and it. The thing that I don't like about Kate popped up again too. So, but let's look at the episode in kind of the order that it appeared. We pick up immediately after last episode with Jack holding his sword to Ronan's neck, or to Ronan, to Clint's neck. William says that's for the Nick Fury Hulu series where the amount of swear increases tenfold. Oh yeah. I think they should let Samuel L. Jackson go full Samuel L. Jackson. Just let him curse up a storm. All right, so what's interesting is that both Eleanor and Jack are home when Kate said she was certain that nobody was home. You would think that maybe walking in going, hey, anybody here, would have been a good call. But Kate's extreme overconfidence, which is pretty much what this series has all been about. The fact that Hawkeye is sitting in some old actress's apartment strapping frozen cocktail drinks to his body to ice down the wounds is because Kate has been extremely overconfident and doing things that are just getting Clint in further and further trouble. So, I mean, that's a reality there that, you know, a lot of people came into the series, they love Kate from the comics and stuff, but this is a very different Kate. And, yeah, I'm again, you have to take her with a grain of salt. She grew on me in the third episode with her helping Hawkeye talk to Nathaniel. That was a good scene, and her in here with the Christmas stuff. But still, that overconfidence is just causing more and more problems for Clint constantly. Kyle says, I'm tired of these mother effing scrolls on this mother effing planet. Yep. Mint tea. Very nice. It's rainy here. It's cold, which is weird for California, but it's very nice. That's the best Samuel L. Jackson, the unrestrained version. Absolutely. So, all right. Now, the scene goes, like I said, it's funny to me that Jack refers to him as, oh, you're Archer. Because if it wasn't for that line, I would have gone, yep, I was completely wrong. Jack has nothing to do, is not an ex-agent. But that line makes me think, well, wait a minute. That sounded like a ribbing, He's the sword guy, that's the arrow guy or archer guy, So I think that there's still maybe a 10% chance that these two know each other from the past, and that Jack is there undercover and is being, and Eleanor is manipulating him. It's like, we find out that Jack is the CEO of Sloan Limited. And I wonder if Jack is aware of that, or is that something, and I'm wondering if that, like I said, if she's setting him up, how cruel is she? Does she know that he's a double agent and is letting him get close to control him and to set him up? If she killed Armand and she did it with a sword to help frame him, she's making him the bad. So is Jack a patsy, an undercover agent, or is he really as over the top? See, in a lot of ways, how I'm looking at this series is you have two rival gang leaders or mob bosses. You have Eleanor, who is kind of, maybe she's Madame Mask, maybe she's in the control of a lot of things. And you've got Kingpin. See, I don't see them working together. I see them working against each other. I could see Jack or Jacques or Swordsman as working for Kingpin. And if he was the one in the Ronin suit who killed the Tracksuit Mafia as Kingpin directed, told him to use the Ronin suit so, it didn't look like he was taking out his own guys. Plus, there's the timing issue. I'm kind of scattered on all this because the timing issue is when Clint talks to Kazi, he talks about, you worked for William Lopez for 4 years, and then you spent the last few years working for Maya. So you're assuming if Maya took over when William died, so last few years, you're looking at 2 years. Has it been 2 years since Clint stopped being Ronin? Or was that after the fact? Because it seems like it's been, because it was 2023 when the battle with Thanos and at the compound happened. So, I mean, I need a timeline and a whiteboard and a lot more time and some caffeine to figure this out. Because I'm still trying to figure out if Clint was still Ronin when William got killed. All right, so they have that little scene. And I think Jack is very interesting in that scene because he is very nonchalant. She's like, oh, I'm helping, why is there an Avenger in my living room? And why is she helping you with an Avenger level threat? And he's like, oh, cool. This is neat. So let's see. JD says, I went looking for theories on the watch on the internet and found an entire website about watches that appear in movies because, of course, there is. I assume the watch from Pulp Fiction's there. Yeah. So the scene with at the table is very interesting. Coulson wore an Omega Speedmaster. There is no Ronin dead pirate Robert story, right? The Ronin character in the comics has been multiple people. I mean, when Brian Michael Bendis created Ronin, the original idea was it was going to be Daredevil. And then when everybody guessed it was going to be Daredevil, he switched it to Echo. And then Hawkeye took over from Echo as Ronin. So it is totally possible that you've got a Dread Pirate Robert situation there. Yes, it's absolutely possible. All right. Look, I need to collect my thoughts real quick, get us back on a straightforward track. Oh, that's right. Blade was Ronin as well. So let's take a quick break. We will come right back and pick up back talking about the episode. Be right back.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
I'm Thomas Munn with Blue Juice Comics, and you're watching The Experience.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Dan Wickline Show. Today we are talking about Hawkeye Episode 4. We're doing spoilers, so let's roll the spoiler clip. All right, so before I jump back into it, though, the commercial that just ran about the dream about entering the contest naked, the costume contest naked. The third place trophy is lovely, but I think you would have got second place had you remember the bandolier. It's probably why you didn't get second. Just saying. I don't know if that's JD or Kyle, but yeah, second place, the bandolier would have been helpful. Now, we get through there's an interesting thing if you watch very closely at the table scene. Now, the fact that the table is separate, has a sword in the center of the table, and they're on opposite sides of it, kind of is interesting to show the division between the two sides. But, and how Eleanor says, I have to trust everybody at this table. Again, I don't, it kind of feeds into the whole thing that Jack is not what he seems. He's kind of an undercover agent. It just seems like a lot's going on there for him to be as over the top as he is. But there's a neat scene where there's the sword. First thing, why would Jack just leave the sword against the wall and then not look when Hawkeye's leaving? If you watch the scene, he and Kate are sitting at the table. Eleanor's already gotten up. Clint's grabbing his coat, and you can see in the mirror behind her Clint moving, and you see she kind of sees it out of the corner of her eye and then looks down, and Jack is keeping her eye on her. You would think that Jack would follow the scene out. I mean, that's where your attention is. If I'm in a room and people are leaving, I'm kind of watching that unless I'm talking to somebody. So it almost seems like Jack left the sword there for Clint to grab. But again, maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Maybe I do too many of these speculation videos. But I still think, and maybe that's who the watch belongs to. Maybe the watch would blow Jack's cover. All right, so we get that scene, and then we have the elevator scene where Eleanor asks Clint if he has kids. Now, that's not a far stretch when you have children and you're trying to connect to somebody. You go, do you have children? And when he doesn't answer, because, again, he doesn't lie. He just decides not to answer when he doesn't want to give out that information. She says, I'm going to assume you do, and then does the whole thing about, protecting her kid. And then when he says he won't get off the case, but he'll take care of her, you would think that would be enough for a mother, but then she goes and makes the phone call that's urgent. She needs to talk to somebody urgently. And that seems like that's the setup for bringing in Yelena Belova. Now, that would happen very quickly because it's later. Yeah, basically that night? No, it's the next morning. Okay, yeah, there's enough time. Yeah, so for Yelena to get there. And so that's totally possible. And that, when we see the scene in Black Widow, they are wearing heavy coats like it's winter. So it's possible that the end credit scene from Black Widow takes place after that phone call and before Yelena shows up on the roof. Now, from there, we get, we find out all that information about Laura and the watch and how, she's worried about the watch. And, again, how does she know about the watch? If it's Stark Tech, it doesn't make sense that she would know about it. It just, the fact she knows about it, either she's an agent or it's something pertaining to them or both. But from there, we then get, Hawkeye goes back and, and we get the scene with Eleanor and Jack. And Jack is very charming in this scene. He's dancing with her. He's saying his cute little things. And, he's misappropriating quotes. And Eleanor still seems stiff. She seems happy, but there's still that weirdness about her, So JD says, you could assume that Natasha's grave would be in Ohio, where they lived at the beginning of Black Widow. Easy flight to New York. Absolutely. Yes. Actually, I think we know because of the weren't there the fireflies going on when we get to that scene? There's something that says very clearly that that's, back where they grew up. So, but the scene with Jack and Eleanor and Jack, and you see Kate kind of warming up to Jack a little bit. It feels like we're starting to get that switch on him. He's starting to become a little charming, stuff like that, and not in a way that, he's the charming bad guy, more like, okay, we're supposed to actually like this guy now. So like I said, I have a feeling that he's either a patsy or an undercover agent, or there's something more to him. Maybe he works for Fisk and she's a rival boss. There's just something more to Jack. We end up with the scene of Kate and Clint spending a Christmas evening together. It's not Christmas, but they're doing the movie marathon. They're decorating the tree. And I mean, just how much is she going to jack up her aunt's apartment? Just noticing that she's, drawing on the posters and stuff. But you've got all this going on, and we get a little deeper into Hawkeye. We see a little more of his angst about Nat. We see he's starting to mentor Kate a little bit. He's starting to connect to her. There's, I think he's starting to look at her in the same way he looks at his kids. He talks about her as being this kid that I have to help out. I can't leave. And I think that protective father figure is starting to come out, which again makes sense in the MCU also with this particular Kate, but the Kate and the Hawkeye in the comics are so very different in their relationship. They talk about trick arrows. I love the fact, the boomerang arrow, because that was the one thing I mentioned last time, that all the arrows that show up in the show are the arrows from the old Marvel Universe page where it listed all of Hawkeye's trick arrows. And the only one that was missing, well, the sonic arrow, which we got to see, and the boomerang arrow. So the fact that he's like, why would I want? So there's a good chance by the end of this series, there's going to be a boomerang arrow. Because they're kind of setting it up for a boomerang arrow. And there's the classic scene in the comics where someone's holding a gun at them and she's got an arrow knocked, and he tells her to let it go high, and it turns out it's a boomerang arrow. So I could see the boomerang arrow coming back as an important thing at the end. Now, we also get her when, after talking about Nat, after talking about Nat and losing his family and stuff, Kate figures out, kind of puts all the pieces together. And I have a feeling she had done it earlier, but this was her chance to ask, and point blank asked if he was Ronan, or says, "You're Ronan, aren't you?" And again, he doesn't lie. He could have, but he doesn't. And you see the difference is she looks at him as a hero, and he looks at himself as a weapon that other people point and use. That, his job was to investigate and terminate. And she looks at him as someone who protects people. And that's because that's how she saw him. when she was a kid. She looked up, and it was Hawkeye that saved her. Now, I don't know if she's actually said it, if Hawkeye even knows that he directly saved her as a kid. I'm kind of curious about that, because there's a lot that happens in this series that doesn't get said. A lot of stuff that they don't take, she doesn't tell him everything and gives him spotty information. So yeah, there's still a lot of directions this could go. They split up in the morning. She goes to get the LARPers. Now, it really does continue to feel to me like the LARPers are being wedged into the series. That they're putting them there for fun or something, but they don't feel necessary. Because, Hawkeye is an Avenger. Couldn't he go to police headquarters and go, yeah, guys, I need my bows back? Or my arrows back? I don't know where his place is in the world at this point, but it just seems like this being forced. And why would... I've done enough archery to know that shafts are pretty much shafts. I'm not sure why you would need special shafts for trick arrows. It just seems, because did he go through New York and recollected all his arrows after the Battle of New York? Was that, S.H.I.E.L.D. paid for all those and now he doesn't have access to them? It just seems like they're trying to force... Both LARPer scenes feel like they needed the other character to be busy doing something. Like they didn't, we'll put them over here with the LARPers. Oh, we got the LARPers. We'll have them help. And it might just be a whole thing to set up them getting their costumes. But again, it seems very convoluted and unnecessary to the story to have these characters in there. And also, where were they? When he comes back after talking to Kazi, they're not at the Ann's apartment, are they? Because there's a bunch of video game stuff in there. Why would she take them back there? Did she text him, meet me here? There really isn't any clear cut where they are. And he just let himself in. So I don't know. Like I said, it's all very kind of strange that the LARPer scenes and anything involving the LARPers just feels like it was wedged in. The Kazi scene, on the other hand, I thought was great. It just showed Clint is very capable, gets in the car, checks all the places that the weapons would be, and just, and tells Kazi, look, I don't want anyone else to die. Get her to back off. And that's kind of where Clint is. He just doesn't want any more death. He just wants to retire and go home to his family. But, yeah, I don't see that. I see this coming to a huge head before anything else. But I like the Kazi scene. I liked at the end where he goes, can I have my gun back? He's like, yeah, what do you think? And he tosses the gun away. Kazi's going to be interesting because in the comics, he's the clown. And the kind of a Joker parody. I don't know if we'll get to that point. But then again, I don't know, are we talking like a Hawkeye season 2 is a possibility? Knowing that could shift a lot of things. Because if right now what we're doing is just telling Hawkeye's story, then everything needs to wrap up at the end. But if we're looking at a season 1 of 2, or of multiple, then we could have stuff like a teaser at the end that Eleanor is actually Madame Mask and not have to get into that, and then we'll deal with that in season 2. Kazi becoming the clown. All these things could happen either teased or in season 2. And with how much stuff we have left to resolve, it seems like a season 2 would be a good idea, But I don't know. I don't know. You know, some people think that this is Jeremy Renner's swan song. I do like the interaction between Renner and Haley Steinfeld. So I would be interested in seeing a season 2 and keep the dynamic and growing and her learning, because she's not ready to take the mantle at this point. She's making too many mistakes, but it would be interesting to see that, you know, a second season where it's more of the mentor relationship and dealing with the fallout of this season. So, but again, we have no indication. So far, the only show that got a clear-cut second season is Loki. You know, Falcon and Winter Soldier is getting is getting a movie, a fourth Captain America movie. WandaVision isn't really getting a second season, but it's getting a spinoff with Agatha. I guess Hawkeye is getting a spinoff with Echo, if you look at it that way. And What If is getting a season 2, but will there be a season 2 of Hawkeye? Now, Hawkeye comes back and he's very short. You know, he's very upset. And maybe he's just getting fed up with Kate and how she's doing things. Wasn't Loki planned as one long season that got broken into 2? No, from what I understand, it was always going to be two seasons. Because they the director didn't know there was going to be a second season. She found out when everybody else did. So, then everything picks up when they find out where the watch is. And that gets really interesting because it's almost like they went, okay, we've gone through episodes 3 and 4. Now we need to speed it up into 5 and 6. Almost like, you know, we've got 4 solid episodes, or we could do 6 with just a lot of slower stuff, a lot of character development. And that's what they kind of did. So they get to the apartment, where the watch is. And this is where the annoying part of Kate comes up, where she doesn't listen to Hawkeye after being shot at, after being captured and tied up and all of this stuff, and seeing how all he wants to do is get home to his family, wrap this thing up, how important all of this is. She still decides, no, I'm going to go in. I hate Plucky. You know, that's the thing, is that all of this stuff is coming down. The importance of him getting home for Christmas. We spend 2 episodes and it's like she gets it. You know, she starts to realize how important all of this stuff is. And she still just does her thing. Decides that she's going to be the one to go in. And that bothers me. I don't like that about the character. And yeah, that's why that character to me is hard to like. Why, you know, I know a lot of people are, oh my God, it's Kate Bishop. No, she's an annoying character. And, but she goes over and she does her. Now, I do like the idea that she acted crazy in the elevator with, there's an Avenger in my ear. I actually kind of like that moment because it shows her starting to think. But how does someone whose mother owns a security company, who works at a security company, walk in, see flashing lights, and doesn't know that even if you don't know that that's what deaf people have, since an alarm won't do any good, the strobe lights, how do you not know that it's a security alarm? Just a thought. And then we get some more convenient stuff. Oh, the watch is just out on the counter, next to the big notebook with all the information about Clint. Again, there are some convenient moments in writing that happen in this series that I don't like, that bother me. And maybe that's just the writer in me, but they bother me. And again, this keeps it from being a great series. It's still a very good series. I'm really enjoying it. but there are those moments that just make me cringe, you know, and we got a couple in a row there. But you know, then everything, all hell breaks loose. I love the idea that Maya attacks at the same time that Yelena does. I love the fight. I love how it's kind of a three-way fight. You got Clint and Kate going against both Yelena, and then Maya and Kate, or Maya and Yelena are still fighting each other too. But I got to tell you, the Widow's sting seemed to have been turned way down on energy, because both Maya and Clint could pull it off. Just, okay, and they rip it off. So, was Yelena really trying to kill Clint? Or was she more testing him? More trying to find out what's going on type of thing? Because it seems like she should have been able to get in there and, you know, I mean, she threw Kate off a building but put a cord on her. You know, and maybe it's that I'm there to kill Clint, but I'm not going to kill this other girl because that's not my thing. I don't know. But it definitely seemed like she was using non-lethal force, which makes you wonder, well, what's she doing? I thought she was there to take out Clint. Is she supposed to just scare him off? Was there a specific mandate not to hurt the daughter? You know? Hero level characters have higher resistance to electrical status effects than minion level. Spoken like a gamer. So, yeah, I'm either she was given specific orders to not let Kate be hurt, which then would specifically tie back to Eleanor having a connection to Val, or she isn't really trying to take out Clint, but was testing him or something. And then she bails, and I don't know why she bails, because it seemed like she could have a conversation then if she wanted to. She probably could have taken out Kate as soon as she kind of lowered the bow. I don't know. There's a lot of questions unanswered at this point, and a lot of things that don't really make sense to me. You know, I mean, the basic questions I still have coming out of the show is Jack the one that killed William Lopez? Or did somebody else do it? Or was it Clint? Did Eleanor contact Val to hire Yelena? Whose identity will the watch reveal? And how? Was Laura a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent? Who was running the black market auction? And why have the tracksuit mafia steal it in the first place? So there's a lot of questions there that I'm still trying to get answers to, and I'm hoping we're going to get the answers in the next 2 episodes. Now, TV Line, the guy over at TV Line, he's the insider that gets all this information, has specifically said that Twitter will blow up after episode 5. Now, my initial thought with that was, okay, that's when we're going to see Vincent D'Onofrio. And I'd say that's probably an 80% chance that that's what he's talking about. But then there's still a chance that maybe we see Eleanor in the Madame Mask outfit. You know, if she is Madame Mask. Maybe there's some other reveal. JD says, what if it's Old Man Steve's watch? How would that reveal someone's identity, though? See, that's the thing, is that all of the Avengers' identities are out there. Everybody knows Clint is Hawkeye, that Natasha was the Black Widow, that Steve Rogers was Captain America, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner. Thor doesn't have an alter ego. But so it doesn't make a lot of sense that it's one of the Avengers. So it kind of feels like it has to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. You know, and what were they doing, and who are they, and why would Clint care so much? And why would Laura have access to the tracker? It's just, like I said, there's just so many questions at this point. And the show is being vague in some ways. So it's not like they're trying to give you clues that you could go back and go, oh, this makes sense. they're just giving you little bits, but not really. It's not a mystery. I don't think we're supposed to solve it, you know? And we probably wouldn't even be trying if this was a show that dropped all at once, like a Netflix show where you got all 6 episodes at once. But because it's a week by week by week basis, and we can sit around and have shows and stuff like this that talk about it and speculate, you're going to end up everything being broken down. And, oh, is this person, is that person, is that Madame Mask? Is that Kingpin? Is this actually the Swordsman? Da, da, da. So we're going to have to wait and see. Hopefully by episode 5, we'll start getting some serious answers. And you know that they always do. That Marvel has been doing a post-credit scene on the 5th episode of these series. Or the penultimate episode. They did it on episode 8 of WandaVision because it was 9 episodes. So expect something to come up at the end. Remember to watch through the credits next week on episode 5. Also, that'll be the last episode before Spider-Man No Way Home drops. You combine that with Kevin Feige saying, yeah, Charlie Cox is going to be our Daredevil when we get to him. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I'm still leaning towards we're going to get Vincent D'Onofrio at the end of next episode, but we shall see. All right, guys, that is the show for today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please join me next week where we'll be talking more Hawkeye episode 5. And I haven't figured out what the other 2 shows are going to be. But at some point, I'm going to do a Christmas gift giving episode to give you ideas for the comic nerds in your life. So thank you all for watching. Stick around for What's in the Box, I believe is up next, with Jen, and a lot of great shows. There's also our late night. Yeah, JD.
I was just going to say, yes, it's What's in the Box next with Jen, and then at 7 Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern, it is Kicking It with Henri.
Yes. So Kicking It with Henri tonight. Miss Jen is up next, so let me lead you guys into her. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Peace and love to all. Good night.